What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Titanium University. We're going to talk about, is direct mail dead? Scott, is direct mail dead?
No, it is not dead at all. It's alive and well. How are you doing today, Phil?
Doing fantastic, man. I'm excited for you to say that since, I made the proclamation at the end of 2023 that, hey, we have not done direct mail for quite a while here at Titanium Investments. And I said, hey, in 2024, we're going to bring in REI print mail, and we're going to get back into doing some direct mail. So excited to have you for our first live together here.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you guys making the commitment to come in and teach everybody how to use REI print mail. So give a brief introduction of who you are and what REI print mail is.
So I am a direct marketing coach here at REI Print Mail. What does that mean? Direct marketing coach is, we basically sit down with you, go over your whole area, what you're looking for. And since we track the millions of pieces of mail that we send nationwide, we know what their response rates are prior to. So we can take your data set, add that into that, tell you what the response rate typically is going to be there. And so we just give you our knowledge inside of that industry. And then on top of that, since we've grown into the fastest 5,000 growing companies in the nation, that gave us some deeper pockets. So what did we do? We went and bought smart data off of Kent Clothier and Boardroom Mastermind last year. Got us better at data because we know best data, best mail piece, best closing tactics. I mean, you're on the phone with the king of the closers. So when you combine the three, what happens? You get the best amount of deals. It's just plain and simple. So, we're able to get into the data set, find it, formulate it, target it, and then put a really good mail piece with it, and then consistently change that mail piece to get inside of the consumer's heads. Because not everybody responds to the same piece of mail the same way. I mean, my grandmother's on my wife's side gave me a bag of mail one day that just simply said, hey, can you mail this? And I looked at it and I was like, yeah. And as I got home, I opened it up and it was all March of Dimes. She was in a position that she couldn't, but she felt so bad that it moved her to write on the outside of them and return to sender. So everybody doesn't look at mail the same way. It opened my eyes to go, wow, that I look at it as a direct marketing coach to say, what does it do? How does it move me? Why would I open this? What am I going to get out of this? My wife looks at it a completely different way. Is like, how can I spend my husband's money? Is that Windows? Is that, solar? What do we need? So everybody has a different approach to opening their mail, but they all do one thing consistently. They go to the mailbox, they get it. They go to the trash can, they throw it away. So if we can get past the trash can, that's step one. Then we have to create the curiosity to get the cat to open it. And then at that point, the red rate, the response rate. And those are all the analytics that we bring to the table so you can make better decisions.
Love that, man. And here's the thing, before we get into the specifics of direct mail marketing and things like that, a consistent question that I've gotten is, hey, RJ, your closing style is great with these inbound leads that you get from PPC and stuff. But does it work with things like direct mail, cold calling, where we're, reaching out to the sellers? It absolutely does, because the first question that I ask sellers is, hey, are you looking to sell this property? So as these direct mail responses are coming in, they might ask questions like, how did you get my number? Or how did you get my address? Why would you reach out? Why would you think I want to sell? You give them the brief answer, and then you just roll right into the closer's formula, which is, are you looking to sell that property? How much are you looking to get for it? Tell me a little bit about what you got going on. We roll into our closer's formula. So REI print mail, talk to me a little bit. You and I had a brief meeting back in December. You blew me away with all of the different options you have. So do we want to go into your presentation? Do we want to share that so we can show all the different things that REI print mail does? Is that what we want to do here?
That's what we're stepping into, and it's arguing with me real quick. So that's why my head's darting around looking like I'm an idiot not paying attention.
Let me know when you're ready. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, real quick on what we do is, getting into it as far as what you're saying, does your closing pattern match this? You're nationwide in that closers close. It's my friend Travis Wells. It's one of my favorite things that he says all the time. Hey, bro, closers close. And in that mindset is if we can generate somebody to call you, what's the difference between a PPL lead and a direct marketing lead? They're the same. Somebody's calling you to say, hey, you sent me this piece of mail. And all that we're doing now is engaging them into what their property is that we're looking to touch. And with that conversation, now we're just in a closing conversation. Everybody, you teach it, everybody's taught it, to who's the best at that point.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that we've seen it time and time again that the way that we teach people to close, it works. We just had our second closers formula. We had about 40 people here from literally 3 different continents, and we got signed. I believe it was like 52 units signed contracts by those people here in like 7 hours of talking to sellers.
That's awesome.
It does not matter the lead source. And that is like our goal in 2024 is to eliminate all of the excuses of people, whether it's, hey, I have a W-2 or I'm severely part-time. It doesn't matter. That's why we wanted to bring in direct mail, because I personally think that one of the direct mail, the benefits of direct mail is the fact that you could kind of do it on your own time frame, right? You guys have an awesome service where you will even answer the inbound calls and then got to filter it out and say, hey, this person is interested in selling their house, and we set up an appointment for you around your schedule. So listen, I'm excited for you to share all of the different services that REI Print Mail brings to the table here. Jennifer has a question. We might get into this later on, but right out of the gate, she says, is it still 7 pieces of mail per lead before they open it? I've never said that, so maybe that's something somebody else.
So that's a sales tactic of, you'll hear people say, you got to touch somebody 6 or 7 times before they believe it. And no, they'll, our goal is to open and generate a call on the very first piece of mail. Typically what we do is we focus on your area of what we know is the response rate in that area on a certain piece and a certain style of list. And we'll combine those 2 things together to tell you prior to mailing that we should get a 0.6 or a 0.8% response rate in that area. So let's take where my brother-in-law lives in Amarillo, Texas. If I send 2,500 pieces in there, typically I'm gonna get about a 0.87, maybe a 0.9% response rate. So that's 8 or 9 calls per 1,000 I send out. If I send 2,500 in there, that's going to get us, roughly 20 to 25 inbound phone calls. Typically on that, 12 to 13 of those are going to be good quality leads. A couple of those are going to be old people go and get off my lawn. And, but of those 12 and 13 good quality leads, that is, usually like Tiffany and Josh I just talked to, we're closing 1 and 4. Travis Wells that uses our system closes 1 and 4. Brandon Brittingham, which is another big name in the industry that uses our system, he's like a 1 and 6. So it depends on how good your team is, how motivated they are to work those leads. But the beauty of that is for every no that you have in there, that's a person that's still qualified. And their no is today, their no is not never. That at some point they're going to sell it. You have their information, follow up on them as much as you can.
So using those KPIs that you just threw out there, say you're getting those, 20 responses, and then, say 12 of them are actually interested, and you're closing 1 4, you're getting 3 contracts.
Potentially, yeah. It all depends on how good you are as a closer, and it depends on how good that quality lead is. And so you have to manipulate that the best of the best of the best are getting 1 and 4,
right?
On a qualified lead. But the other end of that spectrum, where the most of us are going to sit at, is going to be that 1 and 10, 1 and 12. So per 2,500, we should get 1, and that's the goal. And then the better we get, the more we bring that number down. And a great example of that is if I talk about this on stage, is if we're in at a 0.5 and we have 18,000 mailers out there, and I generate 45 inbound phone calls, and 45 inbound phone calls creates 1 deal, that's a 2.2 close rate. If I raise that close rate to a 0.5, I, basically bringing that 45 calls to 40 calls per deal, and I raise the inbound call flow, percentage from a 0.5 to a 0.75. So now I've gone from, roughly say 90 calls on 18,000 pieces to 135 calls on 18,000 pieces. Just that little bitty close rate in there at 40. Now we're doing, instead of doing 2 deals per 18,000, now we're at 4. So by upping your close rate through, coaching programs such as yours and networking, with, all of your friends, you're going to lower, or technically you're raising your rate, but you're going to lower your, your call per deal, or your, I just lost contract. Yeah, cost per contract. You're going to lower all that, but by raising that to 2.5 and going from 0.25 to, or God dang, 0.5 to 0.275, you're going to double your ROI. That did not come out well at all, and I apologize.
But on your point there, Scott, I mean, when you're talking about the lowering your cost and raising your close percent and all of that, we talk about this all the time. It also takes consistency in your marketing as well, right, and your follow-up. I mean, this is the thing about direct mail, is that if you just go out and you send these, 3,000 mailers and you're expecting to get a certain amount of contracts from it, and that's all you ever do, you're not doing enough volume there to really kind of grow that exponentially over the course of time, right? And I talk about this. It doesn't matter the lead source. I mean,
right,
it takes the consistency and following up.
Our biggest failure rate is that exactly right there. Is I'll talk about, you want to mail or market towards getting 2 to 3 deals, per month. Because at that point, you can have success inside of failure. And what I mean by that is if we're marketing for 2 to 3 deals, how direct mail works is we find the data, we pick the piece, we mail it out. So it's already mid-January. It's not landing till start of February. You're getting calls beginning of February. You're writing contracts at the end of February. You're getting closing table March. That's a 60 to 90-day transitional cycle from the time that we paid for it till the time we get paid for it. And if we miss on March, we have roughly 3 months worth of mail that we've sent out to get to that closing table. And then all of a sudden we spent $3,000 per month. We got $9,000 invested. We're about to spend another $3,000. So we're 12 grand in it and we don't have a dime in our pocket. Well, what happens? Oh, I quit. This doesn't work. On to the next shiny thing. I can go to LeadZola, or I can go here. I can do this, and I get instant gratification. Well, that's not how direct mail works. Direct mail is about being consistent. And what we do is March, or January, February, March, we start to build the wave. And what the wave does is, as that goes, we get to March, we have 3 mailers on the ground now. We have calls coming in from the first mailer, second mailer, and third mailer. So it's starting to compound on top of itself. So we'll get more calls in March on the exact same amount of mail. And then the same goes into April, May, and June. That grows. But if we cut it off in March, say we just quit and we're like, I'm done. And then typically I get a call back in June saying, oh my God, I got 2 deals off of that. It's great. Let's turn it on. But we just missed 3 months and we got to start all over again. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You have to start the whole process over again. So let's dive into this. You said the first step in this is picking the list in which you're going to market to. So is that something that you guys help with? Or is this like, hey, I'm pulling my own list somewhere else and I'm bringing it to you and I'm saying, hey, send the mail to this list?
All of the above. So we own REI Smart Data from Kent Clother, the Boardroom Mastermind at it. So we're expert list pullers. We also have friends in the industry like DataFlick, which are phenomenal at, they're the Ferrari of data. You can go to them, get a whole county, get it skip traced, get it, everything that you need, and go and target it. I mean, we're friends with Audantic. So any data provider that's out there, we utilize and we can teach you how to use. So the more you learn how to use it yourself, you can actually save money by buying the subscriptions, pulling those lists. And then we have tools to run it through, like AI, like Reworked AI is awesome. They're a la carte. You can go in there and get that data scored based off of, air quotes, FICO credit score, combined household income. Basically what they do is they take a fingerprint of 187,000 known sellers and they have their data matrix, or their AI will come in and say, okay, these guys are sold. These are the guys that you are hoping will sell. Let's see how close they match. And what Betty does is she can come into, how I talk about it on stage is Betty will come into the room and say, hey, everybody raise your left hand. She'll go, 42% of you are married. Just that quick. She can take your data wherever you bring it from and score it and say, okay, of these, this is how close they match to known sellers. These are what I would mail. Works for land, works for single family, we haven't tested on multifamily. Don't let me lie to you there. That whole data set, we will help you cultivate it. We will tell you best practices. We will build you best case scenarios. I often have people that call me out of the blue. It's like, hey, I got VA starting on Monday. I don't have a list. What can you do for me? And I'm like, well, it's going to take 24 hours to skip trace, but I'll get you something. And then usually they call me back, a couple of days later. Hey, this is doing pretty good. Thanks. I appreciate it. So getting started in direct mail, it all starts with data. Even if you're not even sending mail, it still starts with data. So we can help you in that aspect. And then, as far as when it goes to being in mail, once we assign it, what we're doing is we're going, okay, we know soft offer checks get the best opening rate. Everybody's going to open a check. Everybody's going to investigate it. But what we can't do is send the exact same thing month to month to month. We've tested it. They're going to recognize it as a marketing mail. They're going to throw it away. So what we do is we have variable checks that we can send. We also have letters and postcards that have offers on them. But we know by sending them a soft offer, we get away from the lowball offer of we buy ugly properties, we buy this, we buy that. And then we can create that conversation, that fastball down the middle that they'll swing at. And when they come back to us, we're like, yep, that's what I typically buy a house that's ready to sell. So we can put a mid-level offer in there at 80% or 90%. We can turn that up to create more calls so we have more people to talk to. And then when they come in, we put it back on them that they've kept their house in good standing conditions. So it's not a bait and switch. It's I'm looking for this style of property. Does your property match that? Because this offer represents nobody knows the inside of your house like you do. Where do you see your property at? Mine's a 7. I got kids. They've turned my house up. My wife repaints the kitchen every year.
That's real life.
Right. It's real life. And you're lowering their guard. At that point, you're going, because people don't want to tell you what the inside of their house looks like. It's like my first lake house that I bought at Lake of the Ozarks. It was orange, gold, and black shag, wood panel walls. You walked in, it looked like a trailer. But you know what? It was a $400,000 property that I bought for $187. Right. And I'm like, I'll take it. It was on 4.5 acres. I was like, and they were like, oh, we're going to do all of this to it. And I go, hey, Sam, Barb, you guys are old. Why don't you guys go retire? I'll give you this much. And you don't have to do all that. I'll take care of it. That was actually like I wholesaled it to myself, but that was the first time I'd ever done it. I was like, why do you got to fix all that? Let me do it. Exactly. But in that, the check creates the conversation. The soft offer creates more conversations, more qualified. But we also have pieces that are there. If you have a call center and you don't, you want a lot of follow-up, kick them in the shins. You send them a soft offer postcard. They're not soft offer, but you send them a yellow postcard that just simply says, hey, been trying to reach you for 3 months, failed to do so, sent you this card. There's an issue with your property. This is an urgent matter. Please keep it private. Call me today. Doesn't say anything about buying the house. What does that do? Creates a ton of people calling because they know their house is distressed. What's the problem now? What's the code violation? They do that. They go into a dialer. We follow up with them and reach back out to them 75 to 150 times over the next 2 years.
There you go. All right. So to give you an idea, Scott, because today's call is obviously our first call together inside the community. So I want to explain how I want people inside of our community utilizing REI print mail, and then also set the expectation for you on, hey, this is clearly titanium right here, baby. Right. I can feel it. So one of the things I'm big on is why I got this hedgehog back here. I'm big on the hedgehog concept. I make everybody write it down. What are they, right? So for us, we're nationwide virtual wholesaler, which means we do all 50 states, and we're not doing belly-to-belly appointments. We're closing virtually. I make everyone write that down. So what you'll see is you'll have some people come to you and say, hey, I'm wanting to do direct mail, and I'm a wholesaler in the state of Georgia. or I'm mirroring what RJ's doing. I'm doing nationwide virtual wholesale. And some people will just say, hey, I'm Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep.
That's all I'm doing. I just want to be this one market. But when they come to you, the other thing that we're making them commit is a budget and a timeline. And we're saying a minimum, not like, hey, this is the max I'm doing. It's the minimum, right. 90 days. Mm-hmm. So if they were to come to you, they say, hey, my budget is $2,000 a month, and I'm going to do that for the next 6 months. Is that an appropriate, like, kind of budget and timeline to come to you guys? And would that work? Or what kind of budget are these people needing to succeed with REI Print Mail?
So we tend to reverse engineer it and build it off of the deal. You want to, minimum budget is one deal per month. And now every major city is a little bit different. I tier them in primary cities, secondary cities, tertiary cities. Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, if we stay in the Texas market, are all primaries. You get into, the Tylers or Corpus Christi and things like that. Those are kind of secondary. And then you get into like the Longviews or Sanger outside of Dallas. Those are going to be your tertiary cities. Now, what then we do is then we evaluate what you're doing in that area to know what kind of deal flow we're going to find in that. Because if you're only going in there looking for fix and flips, that's your only solution. It's going to take a lot more mail to find those, because those are the cherries on top. But if we're going in there and we're going to wholesale, we're going to fix and flip, we might send out a couple novations, that we have multiple solutions as you teach. We're going to be able to lower that budget down to create that consistent deal flow because you have more dispositions. But typically what we want to do is generate between 20 and 30 inbound calls is going to average a deal. Now that's including the get off my lawn, stop mailing me, which there's no such thing. We can send them anything we want minus white powdery substances and things that tick. The post office frowns on that stuff. They'll come and knock on your door. Yeah. But at that point, we want to create the reasonable call quantity to where we can find the bell curve of where we're going to find a deal is typically between 20 to 30 calls on a soft offer piece. You're looking at 40, maybe 50 calls on a shock and awe piece, which you don't have to, you're going to get a lot bigger call response. You might get a 2% response rate. It's still about the same amount of pieces, but you're going to get a lot more calls. So if we take that 20 to 30 and we want to get reasonable deals. So like I spoke earlier that we went 3 months and then we missed a deal. We're going into month 4 with nothing, but we're paying. Typically, I like to say to go 4 months. So program whatever you want for at least 4 months, because that's where even if we miss one, we're going to find one. And one deal will pay for all of it. And so as long as we're getting there, and then the more comfortable you get in the talk track, the better you're going to be. So all of that in a nutshell is you want to send out enough to get 2 deals a month. And in finding 2 deals a month, you want to send out on a 4-month campaign. So it's all going to be different for each city. So Dallas, Fort Worth, in a primary city, we're going to need to send out about 4,000 pieces to get 1, 8,000 pieces to get 2. So we're going to be right there at a $6,000, $7,000 budget, depending on if we're doing the data or you're bringing me the data. 8,000 if I'm doing the data, 6,500 if you're bringing me the data. So they're about 75 cents a piece. And then if we go into a Tyler, Texas, we're going to be able to lower that from 4,000 pieces to about 3,000 pieces, maybe 3,200 is going to average a deal there. And then if we go to like a Corpus Christi or Longview, something like that, you're getting down to the 2,500, and then they're at 75 cents a piece. So, you're only like $1,800 in a tertiary city. But now the difference in the cities are primary cities, easy to disposition. Yep. I mean, that you're getting a big deal. You're paying a lot more to get the deal, but you're getting a lot more at the end of the deal. So net is about the same. And then in tertiary cities, you get a big response rate. You write a lot of contracts. Disposition is a big struggle because there's not a lot of buyers in the area. So we walk through all of that to show you the potholes of where we've seen other people step in it. That's part of the coaching process, and that's all for free.
So obviously for us, we love the secondary markets. Mm-hmm. So not big on primary, not big on tertiary, but the secondary markets, that's like our bread and butter.
Right. St. Louis, Kansas City, Indianapolis, All of them.
Absolutely. Oh, love all those markets. Kansas City kind of pisses me off sometimes, but
it pisses me off too. It's a weird one. I got a good friend over there. We're about to start sending mail, and him and I worked together at our last job for a long time, and we both left to go to real estate, but we both used to compete against each other for the next position. So it was like, but yeah, Kansas City's always a weird one. That one, Indianapolis does it too sometimes.
Now, if I come to you though and I say, "Hey, I'm nationwide," how do you deal with someone like me? Are you saying, "Hey, RJ, you got to pick some markets," or so? How does that work?
So we have, I don't know how many people here have skinned a cat. I'm a bit of a redneck. I haven't actually physically skinned a cat. I've skinned a couple possums and raccoons, but there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And we have 1,000 ways in to do it. So when we jump into like our data set, we have, a data set that's called highly likely to sell. This is a property that's currently sitting vacant, has an expired MLS listing, and the owner lives out of state. I can pull those nationwide. So we don't have to dive into one area and then pull, find the best that's just in that area. We can get our best data and spread it out really far and pick and choose, and then get that into a calling campaign to where you can start to call, or, we can take that and then mail to it also. We did that highly likely to sell. One of the coaches spent 2.5 hours, 3 hours pulling a list from Texas through the Dakotas, all throughout the Midwest. And he mailed to it. He averaged anywhere from a 1.5% to a 6% response rate just on that list in all of those cities. Yeah. That was all through Texas, and that was all of it he pulled. And we can do that same thing with, hey, is this only your group? We're not sharing this, right?
Well, it's on YouTube. So,
man, I don't know if I want to put it out there. There's one that's really good that most people miss, because doing the math on it, we think owner occupied, right? The person lives in it. So how can it be owner occupied and vacant?
Right.
That's somebody that moved out of their house and went somewhere else, took a job somewhere else, moved in with their in-laws, da. They don't think it exists. It does. It's a great list, and that's something you can pull nationwide. And you guys heard it here first. RJ Bates brought it to you. So, run with that. That's why you get on these podcasts and you follow RJ and people like him. So
I will say, Scott, that there's a similar list on PropStream. We had PropStream on 2 weeks ago. They call it their zombie properties.
Right.
That list is on there. It's a very small niche list.
It is. But you're not niching your market. Your market is vast.
Right.
So you just niche everywhere. And then you're like, hey, I just want to touch base with them, especially cold calling or something like that. But not everybody answers to cold calling. And this is a great reference to know your demographic that you're targeting. So us for direct mail, who reads all of their mail? People, right. What do the elderly not do? They don't text. They don't get on email. They don't do PPC. They're not on that. So how do we get them? We get them through direct mail. What do they trust? Something physically in their hands. They don't trust anything that's inbound as far as, a cold call or a text or anything like that. So how are we going to get to those people? Well, if we send them a piece of mail, the last thing that they physically trusted was a newspaper naturally in their hands. So if we send them something, soft offer check, handwritten font, they're going to respond to that. They're going to sit there with their reading lamp and their cigarette ashtray, and it's overflowing. They'll have their smut book on the other side, and they're going to engage. Yeah. And they're going to have a phone call, or they're going to turn it over to one of their relatives and say, hey, I got this. What do you think? At some point, somebody's going to engage, but they're going to interact with the piece.
Well, the facts are, when you look at what are our two, like Titanium Investments in 2023, what brought us the most amount of revenue as far as wholesaling? Well, it was pay-per-click and YouTube ads. 65-year-old motivated sellers are not on YouTube, and they're not, on Facebook, and they're not on Google. So I'm missing a huge demographic of sellers, which is quite frankly the best age range. So this is why we're wanting to bring direct mail into the fleet this year, because it's like, I'm listening. First and foremost, I did 50 days of talking to sellers. I know the age range in which I was talking to. A lot of them were not the age range I was mainly in was that 45 to 50 range, right?
Right.
People that know how to use the internet, and they trust it a little bit, but they are also old enough to be motivated to sell their properties.
Do you know who owns 65% of the properties in the United States? People 55 years of age and older.
And I'm missing them. This is why I got to do mail.
Right.
I have to. So,
yeah, but it's, what I talk to most of my clients is, and when we have this conversation, you'll hear me go, what else are you doing? Because it's not one. It's a group of things. We don't want to hit just from one angle. When I send a soft offer check, I want you to cold call them right afterwards, right after it landed. Mail's landing. That's the time to get in on that list and go, hey, I sent you an offer. What did you get it? I sent you a check. It's a foot in the door. So how do you normally, when you cold call somebody, you say, hey, are you interested in selling this property? What's your entry?
Yep.
Yeah. So at the point, if I go, hey, I sent you an offer check, did you get it?
Yeah.
At that point, now they're thinking, well, what are you talking about? And they're looking around, and it's a soft entry into their world.
Well, you call it soft, but to be quite frank, I mean, it's kind of aggressive. I mean, it's like, hey, we're so interested. We've already told you a dollar amount. Now let's talk reverse engineer if that number can be valid based off of the condition.
Yeah. And if we're sending the offer out at 80%, what was the growth of the properties over the last 5 years? If we're talking to people that are not on the internet, they're not paying attention to what's going on. They see the news, but they've lived in their house for 20 years. They haven't looked at the price of their house. They don't know that it's tripled in the last 15 years. And at that point, if I send them a check for 80% of market value and they don't know what market value is, they could look at that check and go, well, shit, Margaret, and boom, they're right there, and calling. And I don't know how many times that we'll send a bad number. We'll send a bad number and get a call back. And they were like, yeah, how soon can you write this check? And it's $35,000 for a $115,000 property.
Exactly.
You get those outliers. They come in.
My experience, which mind you, we have not done direct mail heavily in the past 4 years, but prior to that,
man, a lot's changed.
But I will say 3 to 4 years, I mean, we were pretty heavy in it. One of the big things that we also noticed is you send a mail piece out for a property and that seller calls you back, says, I don't want to sell that one. I want to sell this one. And then that one ends up being a great deal. It's very similar to SMS marketing.
Right.
We always thought because of these financial distress factors or these stories we tell ourselves, oh, it's vacant. That's got to be the one that they want to sell. And it's like, well, we don't actually know what's going on in their life.
You don't even know. You don't even know that it's vacant because, we're trusting the post office, which, they hired my ex-wife. No, don't say that. But it's the post office. It's they're relying on the carrier that is walking that route or driving that route to fill out a form once a month to whether that property is vacant or not. Or the other side of that is somebody has put in, forwarding mail to have their mail forwarded to another address and nobody else is having their mail delivered. That's the only two ways that it's marked vacant. So it's an educated guess at that. And the majority of the stuff, all we're doing is working off the sabermetrics of things anyway.
All right. So let's go back to what I want to do here. You said nationwide, you could go pull this highly likely to sell list for me. Is that going to be including those tertiary markets or can we avoid that somehow?
So through REI Smart Data, we can go zip code by zip code. You can go and say, okay, I want these markets, these zip codes, pull me that data set, and then I can go in there and do it. Or for $65 a month, you can sign up and pull it all yourself. You can pull 10,000 leads nationwide for $120 a month, half the cost of PropStream. You can pull 20,000 leads. And then you also have me as a direct marketing coach to go, okay, these are the filters to use in this area. These are the filters not to. Because every county is different. Every county reports their data different. So some filters work, some filters don't. A great example is like Bentonville, Arkansas. They do not document bedrooms and bathrooms. So if you go in there looking for 3 2s, you're going to find no data. Why? Because you put a filter in there that says bedrooms and bathrooms. oftentimes the first time I pull an area, I will over pull with no filters to see what's actually in this side of the data set. Years of ownership, things like that, that any filter you use, you want to know if that column is full or not. If it's not full, you can't use it because it's not going to filter correctly.
And I'm like you, when I'm pulling data, I do the same thing. I'm only filtering down if I have too much data. Right. If I go into a city and it's like, holy cow, I mean, I've got 50,000 records. I'm not doing that. I mean, let's get this baby down and then decide, okay, these are the people we're targeting. Okay, we pulled that. Now, I know when you and I were meeting, you said that there's a program you guys have that if I want y'all's team to be answering the phone, y'all will do that. So walk me through how that works.
Man, this is awesome. I love this system because as a person, first of all, I love to teach and coach. Man, if I can get involved, my son plays soccer. He's got a really good coach. I have to be 2 fields away watching through binoculars because I'm like, I got to get, just, and I distract my own son in it because I played goalie at a high level. He's a goalie. I have to get in and get engaged. But, it's one, as you're doing other things and getting this started, sometimes you don't have the time to be available. Like for my business, I don't have the time to take all the calls. Yep. I don't have the time to answer and screen. So a great example here in St. Louis is we sent out 360 we sent out mail, 7,500. We created 360 inbound calls. Well, they don't go to me. They go to our call center. REI Complete, it's done for you. So they brought the data set, they brought the mailer, they created the inbound call. That goes into a call center, it goes to voicemail. The inside the voicemail tells them exactly what we're trying to do. If they leave a message, boom, they're qualified. Or if they hang up, our follow-up team reaches back out to them. But as soon as they call, they're in our dialer. And at the point they're in our dialer, our VAs who have been with us for 10 to 12 years, on average, yes, they're based out of the Philippines. I'll lay $100 down if you can figure out that they're not in the Midwest. Every time I've talked to one of them, because if they call my house, I think they're trying to buy my properties. So then to me, that's a lead. I'm trying to sell them direct mail. Why are you cold calling me? You need to use mail. It works better. And at that point, then the first time I figured it out, I was like, she told me you're the investor. And I was like, that's my client. We work together. But yeah, they are phenomenal. I will, like I said, I'll lay $100 bill down on that. That all they talk is real estate. So they reach out, they get them back on the phone, they walk them through a questionnaire. At the end of the questionnaire, they simply rank it. And it's hot, warm, cold, or neutral. And at that point, if it's qualified, it is handed over to you in your lead board, in your CRM that goes with it. And then you can work that through sending contracts through the system. You can track all your metrics, your KPIs, all of that, all the way down to dispositions. If you plug your numbers in right in the beginning of our system, when they pop out on the other end with your expenses and everything, you'll know exactly what your cost per deal was, your cost per phone call, your cost per lead. And then when they call inside of that follow-up. But it's not just for direct mail. You can take a phone number out of that system, go put it on a billboard in Saskatchewan, and whoever calls on that, it's going to track them and qualify that as a lead. You can go put it on a bandit sign somewhere. You can go put that number on a radio ad, whatever you're doing, wherever. If they call through that phone number, it goes in through that qualification. And then they'll screen and filter those calls. And actually, I think in 2 months, those will be live. So 8 to 8, that'll be live answer. So we're going to get even better.
Love that. So what does that look like from an expense standpoint? Is that like a monthly subscription that I'm signing up for? Or what does that look like for me to get started?
That is anywhere from $9.99 or $9.97 a month for the mail only, to where we pull the proprietary list, we mail them, and we run them through there, and then they go live answer to you. There's no lead qualification. $14.97, you get me as a direct marketing coach. You get all the inbound call center and that. But you still don't have all of the back end workings, and you do not get the proprietary data sets done for you. It's more me and you building that together. $19.97 a month, you get all of the inbound call qualification. You get the follow-up team, the CRM, you get all the bells and whistles, and everything that's prior to that, you get all of that too. So you get me. If you're outside of the basic data set, that comes with the system, and you want to go multifamily, I'll go pull multifamily for you. And so you get everything pretty much done from you start to finish. You're just left to close deals and be a CEO.
Love that. Autumn wants to know, do y'all go over all of these different services if they schedule a demo call?
Mm-hmm. You get all of this again. So you don't have to remember anything from this call. All you got to do is remember Scott at REI Print Mail, and then reiprintmail.com/launch/titanium.
Yep. Which
you might want to drop that in the link.
if you click on the link down there, please do that so I can earn enough money to get a Starbucks next week.
No, you don't even need to do that. You need to click on the link because you get 10% off your first purchase.
There you go.
Right. That's why you click on the link, because I make fun of anybody that goes around and goes to REI Print Mail, and then they come in and I'm like, because it makes more work for me to go put them back to you. Right. And, so if you click on the link, you get a call. With that call, you get a half hour, very first time. But the beauty of us is you have our schedule. I'll give you my link. I'll give you my cell phone. I give you everything that you need to know, because ultimately it comes down to one thing. We need to get you deals, because if we don't get you deals, you're going to stop using us, or you're going to stop marketing, or you're going to stop, investing. We want you to get deals because we want to be partners 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So we really get into the weeds and tell you best practices and give you, I open up my schedule all the time. Like this last week, and I think I had 11 appointments between Saturday and Sunday. I've been pretty booked lately because everybody getting started into the new year. But I do my best, and I do it, the due diligence of, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to do it. This is what fits your budget. So you get a custom marketing plan built for you into your system by us here at REI Print Mail.
Love that. So here's what I'm going to do, Scott. I want to do the full kit and caboodle there.
Okay.
Where we have the CRM. And here's the reason why, because we're going to do these calls monthly. And what I want to do is I want to show people the progression that we have starting from ground zero throughout the year, so then we can actually log in. I'm not going to do what Travis did in his CRM. You showed me that. And we got to give our buddy Travis a hard time. He doesn't fill out his CRM, but I'm going to fill out my CRM because I want to be the golden child that you show in your future your calls there, where we actually show like, hey, here's how much we invested. Here's how many deals we've done. Here's how much profit. So as we move along throughout the year, because here's the thing, what I promise you is that we're going to be able to close the deals using the exact same closing techniques that we show you guys. And then we'll show you the CRM. And then what I'll even do is if we can time it correctly on some of these where it's like, hey, maybe the team already took the inbound call and then I'm calling back, I can even record some of those live seller calls to show you guys, hey, it doesn't matter that the lead's coming from direct mail. It still works. We can still close the exact same way. So that's what I would like to do. And then, it's funny. I was talking to the team this morning about today's call, and I was like, look, they were like, hey, RJ, you're not doing anything with direct mail. You're not using REI Print Mail. And I was like, yeah, welcome to the show, guys. That's the point. We're getting started today.
We're reporting to the start line. That's all we're doing.
We're doing it right now, baby. So I'm excited, man. That's what I want to do. I want to do the full thing. So specifically what I want to do, because we could take the inbound calls if we really wanted to. I mean, we have an entire phone system here set up for this.
Right.
But what I want to do is I want to show people if they do have a W-2 or they're not full-time, how this could work for them where, hey, y'all's team is taking some of those, cold calling them, taking those inbound calls, all of those things. And then on our time, we're calling back and we're closing those deals and showing what those results look like. So if you guys like that idea, drop a comment in there and say, let's go, something like that. So what do you think, Scott? Does that sound like a good plan for?
Yeah, and I think, I think it's a beautiful one to bring like Travis Wells in on that. And because that's how he started, is he showed up to me with Apex Investors and he was like, hey, I want to do what Brandon's doing. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll get you set up. And he started with a $3,500 budget in Corpus Christi. And that within 6 months was a $20,000 budget, and he quit his job because he was still working his W-2 at the oil and gas.
Yeah.
And then he scaled, and now you see him everywhere because that's him. I mean, he's a little vibrating person. You can't keep him down. But in having that conversation, that's what we do ultimately is let's sit down, let's build a game plan, let's follow up on that game plan, let's look at the KPIs, let's pivot according to what we have on our KPIs, and then continue to grow. And as we do that, we're going to constantly see leads and deal flow. We're going to constantly create revenue. And then of that revenue, we can utilize that to create more revenue. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do. I want to do the highly likely to sell list across the United States, do the full complete package where we have the CRM so we can track our KPIs throughout 2024. And we can come back and we can say, hey, this is exactly what we've been at, this is what we spent, and this is what we've been able to make, and ultimately follow the same path that Travis had, where it's like, hey, we'll start off with this investment on a monthly basis and then grow it as the year goes. Because why wouldn't you?
Well, and the beauty of it is you have tracking phone numbers in there, so you can attach those to websites. You can attach that to your YouTube ads. You can attach it to your TikTok videos, and you can track your response rates on every single one of those by if you're on a TikTok video and you say call this number, and that video sees 10,000 people, on that, and we get 40 phone calls, we know exactly how much that TikTok video created. So we can track it across the board and generate even more quality phone calls.
Love it. So ultimately, is direct mail dead? No, it's not dead. And we're going to prove it in 2024. I'm excited about this because some of the highest assignment fees that we've ever gotten here at Titanium Investments comes from direct mail. And would you agree that like average assignment fees are a lot higher when it comes to direct marketing like this than,
I don't know because I don't get a lot of I get it word of mouth, and and investors are always going to tell you best case scenario. So to answer that truthfully, I couldn't tell you. But at the same aspect is the level of people that we're touching. We're getting to the people that have some of the oldest houses. They've owned it for the most amount of time. It has the most equity in it. So, and then sometimes those houses have the most distress to them because they've reached an age where they cannot, on a fixed income, fix the property. And then at the point that we're touching them, they're towards the end of, end of life or end of quality of life. So they're needing to move to assisted living. And if we're talking, hey, you can trade your house in no different than you can trade your car in, it's free and simple. I did it with my grandmother's house. Was when she passed away, my father-in-law, it was going to him, and I didn't want to, do finances with family. So I was just like, hey, here's a wholesaler in your area. There you go. And he wholesaled the property, had cash in his hand in about a 2-week process.
Well, I love, we'll wrap up on this, but it's a good story. But how did this come about? Well, it came about for 2 reasons. One, Travis Wells, who we've talked about, invited me to come speak. Well, not speak, actually close on stage at the event. And that's where I met Scott, and we talked, and I said, hey, yes, I'm interested. Let's do this. But why was I interested? Because the majority of the time, I'm like, hey, I'm not searching for unicorns. I avoid the shiny object. I'm like, hey, what we're already doing is working. I'm good. But the IRS reached out to us and said, we have a problem, okay? We have a problem about some money that you made from way back when, and we don't think you paid us enough taxes. So I had to get my bookkeeper involved, and we had to go find HUDs from years and years ago and prove that we didn't make these millions of dollars that they said. Essentially, instead of us making the assignment fee, they thought we made the amount that the house sold for.
Yeah.
So like in Portland, Oregon, a house sold for $500,000. They thought we made $500,000 when we made $50,000. Okay.
Right.
So we're going through that. And as we're going through this, my bookkeeper is asking me, because she wasn't with me back then. She's like, where did this deal come from? And I was like, direct mail. Where did this deal come from? Direct mail. And I added it up, and it was about $500,000 in assignment fees that came from direct mail. And then she looked at me in her, bookkeeper look that she gives me sometimes and says, but we don't do this anymore, right? And I said, that's right. And she goes, why not?
Right.
I was like,
because she did the numbers in her head.
Yes, she did. And I was like, it's a great question, Kristen.
Right.
I think we're going to do it. And then I met you at Travis's event.
Adam, Kate on 701.
Like, hey, let's get this going. So
yeah, it's, you know, the ROI is just there on it. It's consistent. You know, it's just it's never died. And if it has slowed down, we haven't noticed it because we take the time to analyze it to do it right. And you know, if it was dying or not working, we wouldn't be in the fastest 5,000 growing companies in the U.S. We wouldn't grow, you know, anywhere from 30 to 35% every year. And you know, and what we do, you know, we're not taking a ton. We're only making a few pennies off everything that goes out. You know, there's not a big spread in it, but we are the elite direct mail marketing company in the United States because we only focus on it and we track everything we do. KPIs is number one, closing number two. You know, if you're not tracking what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing. It's just that simple. And if you can't close, you know, you might as well just run up to the finish line and fall over because you're not there.
There you go. All right, guys. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the process started. I'm going to do the complete package there where we're going to pull that, you know, highly likely to sell list across the United States, stick with the nationwide virtual wholesaling model with this. We'll have Scott's team do the answers and the cold calling and everything. And then in February, when we come back to you, we should have at least one campaign sent. We might be able to have a little bit of KPIs coming back, seeing what our response rate is. Have we had any closings, things like that? We'll dive more into it. If you guys are interested in learning more about REI Print Mail, in the show notes, we got a link down there. Schedule a call with Scott. He's just tons of information in those calls. I mean,
and it's free.
Yeah, it's literally it's free, and it's also like I got an hour-long call on it where I was literally at like the 40-minute mark. I'm like, Scott, I'm sold.
Yeah,
I'm doing it, damn it.
Right. There's hey, you know, I've never been not accused of being quiet. You
know, true story, man. Well, thank you for coming on today, man. Appreciate everything that you guys are bringing in the community, and I'm looking forward to showing the success that we'll have with REI Print and direct mail this year. So, guys, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And click that link, schedule a meeting with Scott. Let's go crush it this year with direct mail.
Yep. Let's go learn what your market can provide for you or what you're trying to do. And, you know, it's free analysis. That's the beauty of it is let's figure out what everybody else is doing around you that's successful. Let's implement that into your plan. And by implementing it into your plan, we're going to find you more consistent success. You know, and we all know that just adds up to more dollars in our pocket. So,
absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. Appreciate you.
See ya.